how well Barassa has come back from his injury and how he's fit into your offense this year.
Well, last year, he was still fresh off the injury, and just a lot of times those guys aren't back to full strength. I think we're finally getting a chance to see him at full strength. He obviously had a big game. He had 3 touchdowns in the game, and he's become a physical presence. That's the biggest thing that I've noticed, is he's become a physical football player, really good with yards after catch. And obviously, Hunter Wells, we started a true freshman at quarterback last week, and in his first game, he had 4 touchdowns. So 3 of those were Jelani Barassa, so it was a pretty good day for those guys.
Do you expect Dante to play this weekend?
I'm sorry?
Do you expect your starting quarterback to not?
I do. I'll know more after today. He did some individual yesterday, and we're monitoring the swelling, but I would expect him to play this week.
And just talk about Wells. It's always good to feel that you have a backup that you feel confidently if something does happen again.
Well, I think in any league, whether it's the NFL or any college league or anywhere, quarterback play is huge. It's a quarterback-driven league, and I feel really confident that we have 3 quarterbacks. We played 2 more quarterbacks on Saturday. Ricky Davis is another dimension that hasn't played, obviously, last year. He was redshirted, but Hunter Wells, Ricky Davis, those guys are 2 big-time backups for Dante Nania. And, you got to have quarterbacks. You get one guy knocked out, that could possibly cost you your season. So there's just tremendous value in having 2 or 3 quarterbacks on each team.
Thanks.
Again, to ask a question, press star 1.
Well, that was it for you this week. Appreciate your time. Good luck against St. Francis on Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We have Coach Mark Farley of Northern Iowa with us. The Panthers finally back at home playing Northern Colorado in their home opener on Saturday. It's homecoming. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Well, let's talk about Northern Colorado, preview Saturday's game for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Yeah, we're just getting started here on them, so, I'm still learning about them. We just got back home here a little bit ago, so we're in the mix right now of breaking them down and seeing what they do.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get right now to the questions for you. Questions for Coach Mark Farley of Northern Iowa.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Jim Sullivan of the Waterloo Courier.
Coach, tell me a little bit about Max Busher. He's been a guy that's been in your program for quite a while, been through some injuries, been on the bench, started, and he's off to, it looks like, a pretty decent start to this year statistically. Just tell me a little bit about what he's contributed to your defense and to the program in general.
Well, he's just he brings toughness. That's kind of the key to his game. He's just a hard-headed, tough linebacker. He's your typical old Mike linebacker. And that's what he brings. Every day he goes hard. Every day he plays every play like it's his last play, and he's very likable. But at the same time, when you get him to practice and do those types of things, that's the biggest thing he brings to the table is his effort, his passion, and his toughness.
Has he played all 3 linebacker positions for you, Mark, or just 2?
Just the 2 inside linebackers.
Just the 2.
Yeah, he's played Mike.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Again, to ask a question, press star 1. Our next question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
Now, Mark, when did you get back? You said a little bit ago?
Yeah, it feels like a little bit ago. We got back yesterday, probably about 11 o'clock.
11 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes.
Give a review of the trip. What did you think?
It was a great trip. It was short of the win. It was a great trip. It was a great experience, and it was more than what I expected. So it was a great deal.
Okay, thanks.
Coach, back-to-back FBS opponents to open the season with the week off in between, of course. But how did the team come out injury-wise as you prepare for your FBS opponent back-to-back home games against FCS competition.
Yeah, that's the great thing right now is we just got to report here. Just got here earlier this morning, and we've come out of these 2 FBS games all nicked up before, and we've come out of these 2 FBS games and we're actually in very good position right now. So that's the strong point of this whole thing is, the travel and the games that we played were tough, but at the same time, it was we came out of it with a healthy football team and a stronger football team, I hope, because of it. So that's really the true upside, and that's hopefully what we'll shake out of this in the end.
And David Johnson, as both a runner and a catcher, phenomenal for you and for the FCS in general. He leads all running backs in Division I in terms of receiving yards and catches and receiving touchdowns. You continue to use him a lot in that way. More of a running approach this week against Northern Colorado, or mixing it up with David?
Well, right now people have just kind of forced us into it because they've loaded up the box and did those types of things to take him away, and so by doing so, they've freed up some other things. So him getting out of the backfield, he's getting in position, with some underneath coverages now that he can take advantage of, and people are in position to make plays on him, but they haven't. So that's how he's made a lot of his yards, because once they got him inside the box, he doesn't have quite the space to work with as he does outside the box. So yeah, it's kind of what people have done to us to take him away in the run game. So it's opened him up in the passing game.
Mark, appreciate your time this morning. Good luck with your prep for Northern Colorado. Good luck on Saturday.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you. We are just a couple minutes ahead from our next coach, but we do have Coach Mike Stanford on the line, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Indiana State coming off of a big win at Ball State. Second win in 4 years for the program against an FBS opponent, beating Western Kentucky in 2011. First win in Muncie since 1982. A big win, Coach.
Yeah, it was a great win. It was a lot of fun. I was excited about the way our team played. I think we played hard. I think we played smart, and great to get a win over there.
Mike Parrish has had a great season so far. He's, of course, our league's Offensive Player of the Week and a National Offensive Player of the Week. His precision and decision-making is excellent.
He really has. Mike Parrish has played very well, and the biggest thing that we've done that Mike, I got to give Mike Parrish a lot of credit for is we've played 3 games and we haven't turned the ball over yet, and that's a good thing. Especially, and that was something, going into this season that was very important to us, especially with some of the dramatic bad turnovers that we had a year ago that were turnovers for touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. And so our deal has been, part of our plan to win is to take care of the football, and that means, protect the football on offense and get turnovers on defense. And right now we're +7, and that's something we are working very hard on continuing.
Thank you, Coach. Let's talk about this next opponent you have. Not a game this weekend, but Liberty's next on the schedule for you. Certainly a very good FCS program. A tough test for you in a couple weeks.
We have a bye this week. We feel good about having a bye right now. It kind of gives us a chance to evaluate where we're at and get some guys. That we got some guys banged up a little bit. Get them all healed up, and then go full speed ahead. We have a lot of respect for Liberty. Liberty is presently ranked 24th in the country in one of the FCS polls. They are, I know a lot about them. They're a very good program. They are very close to, they're one of the FCS teams that's trying to go FBS. They tried, I think, a year ago, but they have, they're top-level facilities. We haven't watched them a lot, but we've watched them some, and they're very athletic, very big. So we've got our work cut out. Like I said, we have a lot of respect for them. They're a very good football team, and we're excited that they're coming to Terre Haute. We like that. It's fun to be able to play another FCS team at home.
Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up to some questions for Coach Mike Stanford. Questions from the media for the coach.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
You guys feel slighted? You got an FBS win, yet you don't get ranked?
Well, to me that's a process. I think there's a whole process of getting respect and gaining respect, and I think the beginning of gaining respect for us, was beating Tennessee Tech at home pretty solidly. And then the next part of getting respect is beating an FBS program on the road. To me, that's a process, and I understand that. And our deal is, we're just taking it week to week, and we feel like respect will come, but we've got to take care of business. We got to get a win against Liberty next week.
Okay, thanks.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, without a game this week, questions are light, but good luck on your preparations for Liberty in a couple of weeks against the Flames.
Okay. Thank you. And,
thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we'll hold for just a moment till we get Coach Spack on the line with us. Brock Spack of Illinois State. The Redbirds coming off of a win against Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois ranked at 24th as the Redbirds beat them last week in Normal. ISU also, like Indiana State Idol, this coming week. Ossipee is up next for the Redbirds on the 27th. Also at home, it'll be the third straight home game for Illinois State. Couple of conference notes while we wait for Coach Spack to join us. The league has 6 teams ranked in the FCS coaches poll. That does tie a record set in 2008. There are also 5 teams in the top 15, also a record, and also set in 2008. The league is 15-1 against FCS competition, and 19-9 against everybody altogether. That includes 2 FBS wins. North Dakota State against Iowa State, of course, as I mentioned, Indiana State beating Ball State. 2 FBS games on the schedule this weekend. Southern Illinois takes on Purdue. Western Illinois is at Northwestern. Both games on national television. Both games starting at 11 o'clock Central. And joining us now from Normal is Coach Brock Spack of Illinois State. Good morning, Coach.
Hello.
Hi, Brock, how are you?
Doing good, thank you. Sorry.
Good, Coach. Not a problem. We are actually a couple minutes ahead, so we reached out to you early, but thanks for joining us a few minutes ahead.
No problem.
Now, let's talk about your win last week against Eastern Illinois, off to a 2-0 start. The Panthers, a nationally ranked program when you beat them, and now you knocked them out of the poll and took their spot. Congratulations on the national ranking.
Well, thank you. Our players have worked hard, and it's nice to be recognized. But as you know, we got a long way to go, and the conference season starts here soon. So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, your schedule a little unique. You didn't play the first week when everybody did. You're not playing this week, and you have a week off before your next non-conference opponent. And a 11-game schedule for you. So a little bit of differences. I don't know the reasons for it, but talk about having a week off before you play off the day next week.
Well, it's kind of when we first looked at the schedule, it looked kind of awkward, but it is what it is. We got bought out by Ball State, so we had to find another game, and it's hard to get a 12th game. So it's going to work out pretty well for us. I think we can we'll spend the whole week this week trying to get better at what we do, and spend time on us, and then hopefully we have a couple players that are coming off injuries from last season. Hopefully will be available a little bit more here the next couple of weeks and get them up to speed. So that'll be helpful. Obviously, when it comes to depth, and then we'll get ready for our conference slate, which will be very difficult as it always is.
Brock, before we open it up for some questions for you, just your assessment after 2 games played. The defense seems to have played much better than it has last year. And talk about where you are offensively and defensively.
Defensively, we're a little older than we were a year ago in certain spots, particularly in the secondary. Our linebackers are a little deeper. We have 6-7 guys that can play there, we think, and we haven't been that deep here since I've been here. We have some guys that, like Pat Meehan was a National Player of the Week this past week. He's got a lot of experience, along with Alex Donnelly, and we have a transfer from Oregon. O'Shea Dunmore is a very athletic kid. He's only a sophomore, but going to be a good player. Up front, front's the young crew that we're not have a lot of experience there. We have some guys that do, and I got some young guys coming. They're going to be good players. So, our front seven's playing pretty good, and they're opportunistic and forcing turnovers, and that's a good thing. So that's been good. Offensively, obviously, the play of the quarterback is a difference. We have an athletic guy there who can run, and he can throw the deep ball pretty well, and has a quick release, and he's hard to get a handle on it sometimes because he is pretty athletic and can run. Obviously has a lot of experience at the Big Ten level, so that's been good and get experience offensive line. And we have some receivers back that we lost last year to injury that were out for the season, so we have a little more foot speed and a little more explosive at the receiver spot. So that's been very helpful, obviously. So that's probably been the difference. The hidden deal with us right now is that our special teams play has been good, and there are a lot of players playing on special teams right now that normally would be, in the years past would have been starters for us, but it allows us to rest our starters a little bit more, and those kids get a chance to play, and they're good players. So that's been the positive part of it. So,
thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions now for you. Questions from the media for Coach Brock Spack.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
Why did Ball State buy you out, and what did it cost them?
Why did they buy us out? I don't know the reason behind that. I think they had a. I don't know either answer to that question. I wish I did. I think it was they lost quite a few players off their team from a year ago, and they had to come here, and I don't know if they thought that was a good deal. And then now they played Indiana State last week. I don't know if that was in our slot or if it was Iowa. I couldn't tell you what was, but they scored a different game, and I just don't think they wanted to come here and play. Is kind of my take on it. But I don't know how much money they paid for us.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, that wraps it up for you this week.
All right, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks, Brad.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. And joining us now from Western Illinois, Coach Bob Nielsen. The Leatherneck heading to Northwestern to play a game that will be seen live on ESPN News at 11 o'clock Central. Morning, Coach.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm okay, thanks, Mike.
Congratulations on your win against Drake, getting your record at 2-1, headed to Northwestern, and a second Big Ten opponent this year. Talk about the game at Northwestern, preview it for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Well, another high-quality opponent, obviously. Playing a very good Northwestern team, exceptionally well coached, great personnel, tremendous challenge for us. 2 weeks ago, we played up at Wisconsin and played a decent first half of football and didn't execute as well. And give Wisconsin credit, they played really well in the second half, kind of took it to us. And so, the big thing this week is we got to play at a really high level for 4 quarters to make it a competitive football game.
Thank you, Bob. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you. Questions for the media for Coach Bob Nielsen.
To ask Coach a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, for questions, press star 1. Our first question comes from Scott Holland of the McDonough County Voice.
Good morning, Coach.
Morning.
You've got 2 games of Northwestern on film, but they're also coming off of a bye. How much does that maybe change the way you guys go about preparing for them this week, since they are coming off a bye, and you may see a different team than you saw in 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season?
Well, it's an advantage having a bye. It gives you a chance to really, look internally at the things that maybe over the first 2 weeks you need to do better and focus on those things. Does it allow them to maybe make some changes in their schemes and do some things differently in the game? Yeah. So you have to prepare a little bit differently when you're playing a team that's coming off a bye, particularly when they have a bye early in their schedule. The other thing is obviously it allows you to get guys healthy that maybe got banged up the first 2 weeks, and so I think from a preparation standpoint, forces us to even though we had a chance to look at what they did in their first 2 games against California and Northern Illinois, you still have to be prepared for a little broader spectrum, both offensively and defensively, than you would have to if they didn't have the week off.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, we're 3 weeks in. Talk about the progress your quarterback has made. He seems like he's more than just a sophomore, but talk about his progress in the year and 3 games that he's played for you.
Well, he got better during the year last year. Thought he was playing his best football at the end of the season. This season, he opened up with a very good game against Valparaiso early on. He played just a little over a half in that game. Wisconsin, it was a tough football game. We struggled moving the football with any consistency against their defense. And last week, I thought, particularly in the first quarter and the third quarter, we did a really good job of offensively and for Trent making decisions and getting the ball in the right place, both in the passing game and in a run game, and as a result, moved the ball really effectively in those 2 quarters. And this week, we've got to do that. We've got to rely on him to make good decisions at the line of scrimmage, to make quick decisions, and be able to make any adjustments at the line of scrimmage that we need to get us into better plays. Because when you play high-level defensive football teams, which Northwestern is, you got to maximize every snap that you get. So we hope we can take another step forward. And certainly the quality of defenses that we play the rest of the week out, where you add Northwestern into the conference schedule, are going to be outstanding. And so from that standpoint, your quarterback is really critical.
And one last question before I let you go. Talk about Miles Spearman getting a start last week for the first time, and certainly responding to it. And talk about his play last week.
Well, he made a lot of tackles, but like all young players, he made a lot of mistakes too. And he's going to be a good football player. And he's going to be better every week that he plays, and he's going to have to play a lot now due to some injury situations that we had that we've got in the secondary, and hopefully it'll be a week better this week. It's funny how media guys will look at the stats and say, "Wow, he must have had a great game," and he did. He made some plays, but we also gave up some third down conversions early in the game to Drake that allowed them to keep drives alive, and a couple of those times, as with all younger players, they're going to make some mistakes, and so we got both out of him on Saturday. Got some really good plays and some mistakes that he'll learn from and be a better player this week.
Coach, appreciate your time this morning. Good luck in your game at Evanston this coming weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Joining us now is Coach Dale Lennon of Southern Illinois. The Salukis also playing a Big Ten opponent this week, playing at Purdue in Lafayette, and Big Ten Network will televise that game. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
Let's talk about your game at Purdue, preview your opponent, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, big challenge, and that's what we need right now. I think our first 3 games have been good for us, but we definitely need to take our game to a higher level. And anytime you play a Division up team, that's exactly what you got to do. So, time for us to be playing some of our best football, and hopefully on Saturday we can see that.
And your quarterback last week had a phenomenal game with 6 touchdown passes for Mark. Talk about his play, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, Mark has been a key guy for us offensively. He does a good job of distributing the football, and the funny thing is he set a school record with 6 passing touchdowns, and he really didn't play, that great of a game, and that may sound kind of strange to say that, but there were a couple throws that he forced, and then he had a pick 6 in there, so there's still a lot of room for improvement, and but he is very comfortable with the schemes that we're doing right now. His completion percentage is where you want your quarterbacks at, so I've been very pleased with his development.
Thank you, Dale. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions now for you. Questions from me to Coach Dale Lennon.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, for questions, press star 1.
Which we touched briefly on the quarterback. Let's talk about Tyler Williamson and the defense overall, having a great start to this season. If you could touch on that before we open it up for questions again.
Okay, yeah, Tyler Williamson, he's one of our defensive captains, and just has a good knack for the ball. He set a school record with his 7th, I think, forced fumble, and he's just one of those playmakers. He's always at the right place. He does a lot of homework during the course of the week, just learning the tendencies of the opponent coming up, and you look at him athletically, he's gifted, but he's not the best athlete out there. But when he does get on the field, he plays like he's the best athlete out there. So those type of players are very valuable to you as a coach, just because they cover all your bases for you. So Tyler's been good to us.
In your rushing game this year, and the offensive line in particular, talk about your offensive line and how they performed so far this season.
Yeah, and the way our game ended with Southeast Missouri was kind of the way you want and what you want from your offense. We had a goal line stand at the 1-yard line, so our offense had the ball at about 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and they just proceeded to run the ball down the field and ran the clock out. So, that's something that's very encouraging. Last year, I don't know if we were at that level to do that. Run game, we got a good 1-2 combo with Malcolm Agnew and Mikael McCall. They run the ball very hard and effectively, and both kind of have a different set of skills that they bring to the table. And our offensive line has just really stepped up as far as their physicality and have done a good job of moving the line of scrimmage and creating the hole. So, and I think that's complemented too. We've got the tight ends in there. We've got a couple of tight ends that are very talented. So, overall, pleased with the run game offensively.
Coach, obviously a light week for you. Good luck against your game at Purdue this Saturday. We'll talk to you next week.
Mike.
Thanks, Dale. And we are a couple minutes early, but we do have Coach Joe Glenn waiting in the wings, so we're going to go ahead and forge ahead. Good morning, Coach.
Hi, Mike.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Well,
I'm usually great, but right now I'm all right.
Yeah, let's talk about Northern Arizona, another ranked opponent for you. That's 6 in a row in the FCS when you've played an FCS school, and certainly a tough task as the Lumberjacks come to town. Talk about this game and this opponent, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Well, first of all, it's at home. That's pretty good. We've taken a couple of long trips out west, and they wear you down a little bit when you get back at Sunday morning. But we've played decent, not outstanding, but we need to get a win. I think, you can play good and those types of things, but the bottom line is, in this business, you got to taste the victory. Northern Arizona's got a good football team. They lost to San Diego State and actually did a lot of really good things in that game. They beat Abilene Christian, and that was on the road, and then they defeated New Mexico Highlands 62-23. They have a good football team. They're, of course, a playoff team last year, and looked to me like a very good football team. They had a terrific running back in Ballman last year who made the team for the Arizona Cardinals, and they replaced him with a couple of running backs that are averaging 7.5 and 4.6 a carry. I saw the quarterback for him, Kyron Poe, playing high school. He quarterbacked Chandler Hamilton to the Arizona State Championship. He's a very good quarterback. And so we'll have our hands full, but I'm glad we're playing in the friendly confines of the Dome here in Vermilion.
Coach, thank you. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions for you. Questions for Coach Joe Glenn.
To ask Coach a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
Good morning, Joe. What would you consider Montana's strength?
Their quarterback, probably. The guy's been, in playoff games every year he started there, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He really breathes confidence into the offense and knows where to go with the football. They've got some talent. Every game that we watched, and in our game as well. Number 8 did some things that hard to coach. Got to run and catch. In our game, that Trayvon Van is the guy I'm talking about. That he's just different. He's different. Sticks his foot in the ground better than most, and they ran the ball better than I anticipated. They had a young line, and yet they put it on us running the football, which is disappointing. And that I can't say it surprised me, but I didn't think they would run the ball 5 yards to carry on it. So then they got a bunch of backs. Canada and Wynn are their real tailbacks, and then they'll jump in there and carry the ball for him. But I really think that as Jordan Johnson goes, so go the Grizzlies.
You're a part of that tradition. Why is Montana considered one of the top programs in the history of FCS?
They got horsepower. I mean, they set an attendance record at our game, broke the all-time record. We had 26,303 people at our game. That'll generate some income and some interest. And if you haven't played there before, you're missing a treat. It's a wonderful facility. It's right at the base of Hellgate Canyon and the base of Mount Jumbo. It's big. Yeah, most of the top of it. It's a fabulous place to play, and they've got it going, and they know how to get it up. There's no doubt. And our kids were impressed with just the whole idea of college football at Missoula. It's a pretty big deal.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, you mentioned the atmosphere there, and yet your newly enshrined quarterback Ryan Sager led three scoring drives of actually 10-plus plays. Talk about his play as he's learning the ropes.
You know, I grade him probably a C. He didn't really throw the ball like he had previously. Of course, we weren't throwing at an NAIA team either, but took a little off at some of his throws and kind of caught himself in the second half and started throwing it the way I've seen him throw it previously, and led us into the end zone to a beautiful pass to Eric Schuford, 31-yarder with a couple minutes left. A minute left, we tried an onside kick, didn't get it, but he showed, you know, again what he can do, and he's got to keep coming. But we really like the guy, and we think that in this interim time, he's capable of being a real good quarterback in our league, and he has a lot of confidence in himself. The kids have confidence in him, and take about 2 throws away, and I'd say he'd been played an A game.
Coach, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Good luck against Northern Arizona this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.
We're just a couple minutes ahead of schedule still, but we're going to keep moving ahead. We do have Coach John Stiegelmeier of South Dakota State with us. South Dakota State playing Wisconsin Oshkosh in the Brookings. Jackrabbits ranked 10th in both polls this week. Morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
What can you tell us about your opponent, if you could preview the game for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, they had a great year last year in their league. Had 2 losses, I think a total of 4 points. You know, they lost some really good players. We don't see necessarily the same team that we saw in film last year, but we know because it's a lower level, they're going to come in ready to play, ready to prove themselves. And our measure is where we were last week and how much better can we get this week by hard work and focus on the things we need to work on rather than necessarily every week a different opponent. So they'll do a lot of things in offense, and they'll be real consistent on defense. So our defense has their hands full, and our offense should see a consistent picture most of the time.
Yeah, if you could assess last week's win at Southern Utah. Of course, the victory is always important, winning 26-6. But talk about your team's play, and then we will open it up for some questions for you.
We played. I told the team this yesterday. The first half may have been some of the best football I've seen out of our team in my 18 years here. We had a 21-point lead. We had to open the game. We had a 13-play drive against a really good defense. We only gave up 60 yards in the first half to a team that was a playoff team last year. Now we fell off in the second half, but we really, really played well. And Coach Lamb's done an amazing job at Southern Utah. He's a good man, and it's a good football team. They play great defense. We're happy to go on the road and get a win against the Big Sky team, and a team that has been in the playoffs and hopes to be in the playoffs a bunch.
Thank you, Stig. Let's go ahead and get to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach John Stiegelmeier.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Coach, how well has your defense played, as far as to their potential that you thought they had before the season started?
You're talking to a guy that it's never good enough. Again, last week at the start of the game, the first half, I don't know if we could have played better, honestly. We hadn't taken the ball away yet in the first 2 games, and in this game we had 3 takeaways, 3 interceptions. We scored on one of them. We had another one we were scored on, but we had a penalty on it. We clipped the guy. And so I think they made some great improvements from the first 2 weeks. We surely can get better in a lot of areas, but I'm really happy, and we're healthy. God, we're healthy, and that's a huge deal. Our offense is not healthy, but our defense is. So we need to carry the load right now.
And I know you had, Austin Sumner doesn't play on defense, and you certainly had some other players on offense. Quarterback played very well, but sometimes the defense takes it on themselves. They have to step it up a little bit. Have you seen that from them too, a little bit?
I hope I have. We never talk like that. We never talk like one unit's down, so you need to do better. That's like we were reserving something for a game, And so, but internally, I think when Austin Sumner went down, I think our whole football team kind of rose up and said, we lost a really good player, a great leader. We need to do our best every play. And so I would say yes in defense and hopefully in our whole football program.
Thanks.
You bet.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, when I host teleconference, we're not talking about Zach Center. he's having another great year, another great week last week. But I'll let you go, and good luck in your game against Wisconsin Oshkosh this week.
All right, thanks, Mike. Take care.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Chris Kleiman of North Dakota State is on the line with us. The Bison are hosting third-ranked Montana this week, and should be a tremendous atmosphere in the Fargo Dome. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
Let's talk about Montana. Of course, Joe Glenn and his ball club just played him out there and played him close. But what have you seen on film and preview the game for us?
Well, they're an exceptional football team and well deserving of their ranking. They're really good on both sides of the ball. They've got playmakers on offense, and quarterback's been around a long time and really is kind of the catalyst of their offense. They've got tremendous skilled kids. I know they're banged up a little bit up front, and we'll find out if those guys are going to help and play for them or not. But we'll have our hands full on defense, and then their defense is really sound. They run to the football really well. They're well coached. They're in position. We're commenting how well they tackle. They don't miss many tackles, so they in turn don't give up many big plays. So I think it's going to be a great FCS game.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Chris Kleiman.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Bill Stelz of the Missoula newspaper.
Good morning, Coach.
Morning.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your quarterback, Carson Wentz. Real impressive start to his season there. What do you like about the way he's playing?
Well, he's in his third year in the program, or I should say fourth year in his program. He's a redshirt junior, and he's had one really good game. Then he played subpar against Weber, and then came back and had a really great effort this last week. He's a tremendous leader. He's a really good athlete. He just doesn't have the experience or the snaps that Brock Jensen did for playing for 3 years. But we like Carson. He's getting better as the season's going. He's got a lot of confidence, and our kids really rally around him because he's a tremendous leader, and he's got a really good arm, good feet in the pocket. It's going to continue to be a work in progress for Carson, but we're excited about what he's going to do for us for this year and the coming year.
Kind of a general question here, but if you were talking to a Missoula native here on the street and I asked you, why are you guys so good every year? What would you tell them?
Oh, the culture and the tradition of the program. You know, we've won long before I got here, and we'll win long after I probably leave here. So I think the culture that the former players have created here is really good, as well as the former staff that was created here with Coach Bull and his staff. But our kids work extremely hard. They grind the game out, and hopefully don't beat ourselves. Although we've had some penalties that have affected us a little bit this year, and it's a great atmosphere for football here. Football is important here in Fargo, just like it is in Missoula.
Just one last question from me. Very impressive balance. But can you talk about your offense and the way they've performed in that sense?
Yeah, we're trying to be a a real balanced offense. We've got John Crockett and a couple of the running backs that are having real good starts to the season, and then trying to get the ball out of their hands and into Carson's a little bit more so that we can be in that 50-50 range. And we've got a couple of really gifted wide receivers and several tight ends that we can get the ball to. So for us, we want to try to stay balanced as much as we can. We'd probably be known as a running team, but I guess if you look at the stats, we've probably been a little bit more 50-50, especially as the game is as close, and we've got to play it for 4 quarters. Thank you. You bet.
Our next question comes from Craig Haley of Sports Network.
Hi, Coach. How are you?
Great, Craig.
Can you talk about your team has had a lot of success in recent years with in-game adjustments. Can you talk about that decision making when you're adjusting to an opponent?
Well, I guess I can talk probably more on defense just because of the last 3 years being here on defense. We don't try to reinvent the wheel on defense. I think, for starters, we don't come up with a bunch of different blitz schemes and a bunch of different coverages on a week-to-week basis. We adjust a few things. So some of the adjustments that we're making in-game from coach's standpoint aren't drastic changes. And then I guess the other thing is you just got to credit our players, and especially those kids that have played a lot of football games. They just continue to see the stuff, whether it's on film throughout the week or what they're seeing from the first quarter through the second quarter and early third quarter. They do a great job of communicating amongst themselves, whether it's on the field or on the sideline, of what they're seeing, and everybody is trying to get on the same page. And that's the whole key, I think, to being successful on defense is your back end's got to mirror your front end, and the kid's got to be on the same page. If you get somebody off, obviously a big play can happen, whether it's by the run or the pass. But I credit our coaches, and I really credit our kids for buying in and really listening and understanding what the small adjustments we are making are.
Sure. And how about that? That kind of process at halftime. Does your team break off into separate units, and then you bring them all back together? How does that work?
We break off as coaches, offense and defense, and then we break off more as segment groups, not as unit groups. So the DBs are together, the linebackers together, D lines together, and then obviously the coaches come back together and say, here's the adjustments we're making specifically to a defensive side. But we don't bring them together as a unit at all. We try to stay segmented and let the coaches coach and let the players kind of talk amongst themselves as well to see what they're seeing. We take a lot of input from our guys, especially the guys that have played a multitude of football games. I listen to what Colton Hegel says. I listen to what Carlton Littlejohn and Kyle Emanuel say about, maybe it's a stunt that may work, maybe it's a coverage, maybe it's the pressure. We've got a lot of faith in those kids, and they're vested because they know that their input is critical to us.
Sure. One last one. How about this season, your first 3 games? What in-game adjustment would you say was the most effective you've made so far as a team?
Oh, I think some of the run game things we did against Iowa State in the second half. I thought Coach Balasek and the offensive staff did a tremendous job of changing up some of our blocking schemes to be able to successfully run the ball better against Iowa State in the second half. I thought that was extremely, extremely productive in what we did at halftime.
Sure. Thank you, Coach.
You bet.
Again, for questions, press *1.
Chris, that was your final question. Thank you for your time this morning, and good luck against Montana this weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Missouri State is 2-1, looking to make that 3-1 when the Bears travel to Conway, Arkansas, to take on Central Arkansas this weekend. We have Coach Terry Allen of Missouri State with us now. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
Well, let's talk about Central Arkansas and preview the game for us. They have a different quarterback than they had last year, but still a very good football team. And talk about the Bears this weekend.
Yeah, they're a very good football team. They had 2 losses, but they had played a great game against Texas Tech. Had a chance to win that one. And last week they went out and gave Montana State a great game. So got a lot of respect for them. Probably the thing that sticks out the most is that I think in their 3 games they're averaging like 28 first downs a game, and they've yet to turn the ball over. So it should be a heck of a game.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you. Questions for Coach Terry Allen.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, talk about your quarterback. Kira Harris is having a phenomenal year so far. He had a great week last week, accounting for 4 scores and a 38-0 blanking, sold-out stadium, and certainly a great atmosphere for the new facility.
Yeah, Mike, you and I, we can talk about it. It was a great night. It was unbelievable. We had over 18,000 people, and the university and the community turned out. And Kiera's been doing a nice job. There's no question about that. 8 touchdown passes and only 1 interception, and the interception was a 3rd down long. Throw it up and see what happens. So, and he's got good feet, so he's able to rush the football. So it's a good compliment. He's doing a nice job.
I have one question. We do have a question in the queue, but I'm going to ask you a question about Dylan Cole and his progress for you on defense.
Okay. Well, Dylan Cole's an outstanding football player. I think he had 6 tackles for loss against Oklahoma State, another 1.5 tackle for losses last week. He's just a force to be reckoned with, a good football player.
Now let's get to the question from the media for you, Coach.
We do have a question from Dominic Izzo of WDAY-TV.
Coach, good morning. I wanted to ask, this is going to sound probably a little bit ridiculous, but heading to Conway, the football field being the weird colors that it is, how do you prepare for that? Can you, and is it something when you're just out in the field, it doesn't really matter?
Well, we hope it doesn't matter. We haven't been faced with that situation before, but I will tell you we are changing our travel plans because of it. We would normally, where we're staying, we wouldn't go to the stadium on Friday, but the guys have seen it obviously on tape and want to see it in person, so we'll take them down there Friday and we'll convince them it's all green and go play the game Saturday night.
Does that bug you? I mean, you've been around the game for a long time, to see football fields that are not green.
Well, let's just say I like the rule that they came up with the markings. We just put new turf in here, and we had to shrink the size of our bear in the middle of the field so that all the lines could be seen. So yeah, I'm more of a traditionalist. Doesn't bug me, but let's stay on green.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Yeah, that was your final question. Good luck on the purple turf, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Mike. See you.
Thanks, See you. This does wrap up this week's call. Appreciate everybody's participation. You can now disconnect, and we'll talk to everybody next Tuesday.